So let's talk about controlling your moving and your intelligent lights. I'm here in the concert augmented file, and most of the instruments in this file are either intelligent or moving lights. So there are great ways that we can move these and control these through another one of the shortcuts that Nomad and Augmented gives us. So right now we're in the live table, right? So we're taking a look at everything that's hanging in the air. And notice I have some, up here I have some conventionals, 1 through 5. These are ellipsoidals. Here I have some color source pars. We've talked about pars, but these are intelligent pars, and I'll show you those in just a second. So I have some color source pars here. I have some color source pars there. And if I slide down, I have some instruments called a Soliframe 750. Those are my intelligent lights. So let's take a look at those real quick. I'm going to turn on the work lights in the space. So I'm going to go to the ambient lighting and I'm going to turn it on at high. And we're just going to take a look at the inventory of what's in the air. So here, if I click on this guy, you'll see he's my Soliframe. He's in channel 31. If I click, let's deselect him. And let's click on this guy. He's channel 32. He's also a Soliframe. So you can see around the outside edge of my truss system here in the concert file, I have all these great moving lights. And it looks like I have quite a few of them. Let's take a look. Yeah, it looks like I have 4 on each side. So I've got 16 total, and there's channels 31 through 46. So I've lots of really cool options in this file to play with. And then in between, I have these guys here, which those are my color source par RGBs, right? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I have 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 4 on the downstage edge of the concert venue, and I have 4 on the upstage edge, right? And then I also have this other group. Let's deselect these. I also have this other group of truss beams, right? So here I have 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you notice, they're shining on the inside of these, this truss setup for this concert, which is a really standard kind of look. We always want our look, our concert truss to look like it's part of the show. So this is a technique of embedding some lights in there that helps you light those up and make those a lot of fun. So I have 4 on the top, which are channels 21 through 24. And then I have 4 on the bottom, 25, 26, 27, and 28. And you see these are at the bottom of my truss, right? So I'm going to turn my Soliframes off here for just a second. Let's deselect all of this, right? And I can scroll down here in my live table and I can select my Soliframes here, and I'm going to turn them off by selecting them all. And notice down on the command line, I get channels 31 through 31 through 45. I'm going to click intensity, 0, enter, and they're all going to go out. Right? So now they have all turned off. Terrific. Exactly what I want. So let's turn our work lights off so we can see what's going on. And you can see here, my RGB lights, my color source pars are still at full. And the ones that are in the truss beams are also at full. So let's turn these guys off for just a second. So I'm going to select the ones that are in the truss beams there, and I'm going to click intensity 0, enter, and I'm going to turn them off. So there's a couple of ways that I can manipulate these lights. One is I can do it manually. So I can go in here and I can click and select these lights. I can go into this table and change the mix of the color red, the green, the amount of blue and their saturation. I can change their intensity. So there's lots of things I can do to manipulate these manually. I can also select one. I can go into the patch, and let's see, I can select channel 11, and we've seen how we can go into the patch and affect this manually the same way that I can with the conventional lights. But intelligent lights are a little bit different. I can select one of these lights. Let's see, let's go with channel 11 again. And because it's an intelligent light, ETC Nomad gives me a feature that's moving light controls that specifically controls all the parameters of moving light instruments. So let's take a look at that. I'm in my live table right now, but I want to add my moving light controls. So I'm going to click on the Add a Tab button here. And from this purple controls menu, I'm going to add ML controls, which is moving light controls. When I click on that, you'll notice it's given me a cheat sheet for all the parameters that go with this color source par. Now, I can't do a lot with this color source par. He's an intelligent light, he's a color changing light, but he's not a moving light. So here's what I can change. I can change his intensity. So I can change his intensity from max to minimum, right? So minimum is off, max he's on. And if I click on this color wheel and scroll up and down, you notice that I can select any value in between from here, from scrolling up and down. If I click home, it's always going to reset it to its standard value, which in this case for color is 0. So max, minimum, max. I can grab all of those instruments. So I could grab, let's see, channel 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18, which are my color source pars of the same kind. Click on the moving light controls. I can turn them all to minimum. I can turn them all to max. I've got another instrument on here. Where is that? Let's kill him real quick. Let's take him out. Let's deselect him. And let's go back to my live table and choose RGB pars. Go to moving light controls. And again, max, minimum, or click on the scroll wheel and anywhere in between. And it also gives me, because it's an intelligent light, this happens to be a color scrolling, color changing instrument. It gives me all the colors that it can make this model. So notice in here in this square, I have what's considered the full spectrum pretty much of colored light. This triangle shows me all the colors that these particular fixtures can make within that range. So I can take this crosshair here and slide it to anywhere inside that triangle, and you can see those lights will respond by changing to those colors. Right? So if I want a red, I can slide over here, and then get a full red. I can get closer to orange. I can get into the yellows. I can slide over up to the greens, really, really bright green. I can slide back down here and hit white in the middle and go towards my blues. So the moving light controls allow me to change all the parameters that are particular to this type of fixture. And again, this one we're working with the color source par. So there's not a lot of parameters. Here's where I can change the red, green, and blue color mix manually. So if I wanted to turn the reds down to a minimum, the greens down to a minimum, I'm pretty much left with a blue. Let's see what blue max is, right? So I can manually change those red, blue, green parameters here, or I can set all these to home, which red, blue, green equals white when it's together, right? Or I can grab the crosshairs again and I can move the crosshairs around or click to a particular color that I would like to see. Great. So let's turn these guys actually off for a second. So I'm going to drop them down to minimum and I'm going to reset their color back to home. I'm going to go back to live table and I'm going to deselect these lights because I want to look at my fully functioning moving heads. So my SolaFrame 750s are moving head instruments. So I'm going to grab one right here in the middle. Let's see, 33 is pretty much right here in the middle. And again, from the live table, I can change its intensity. I can change some of its pan and tilt, which again is the movement from side to side or front to back, top to top, spinning around. Or again, I can go into my moving light controls, and you'll see there's lots more parameters inside this lighting instrument than there are in just the color changing instrument. I have everything from intensity to pan and tilt, to the type of focus points, to the color picker with the particular color range that this one picks up. Again, I have the manual color possibilities here. I can also select from some really specific saturated colors directly. I can zoom and iris. So let's take a look at that. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to turn him on. So we turn him on with intensity, right? So I'm going to go up here to intensity and click max. And notice he's defaulted to a really, really small beam. Let's say I want to make that beam larger. I can come over here to zoom and click zoom max. And that's as wide as he's possibly going to get. And again, zoom minimum, that's the smallest beam he'll make. Zoom max is the largest beam he'll make. I can also dial in the edge. Like this is like sharp or soft focus with our ellipsoidals. So max and minimum are both really fuzzy and they're soft focus. But if I grab this guy and I scroll him down, and I'm scrolling down on my mouse wheel, notice he's getting sharper and sharper. So a sharp focus for these instruments happens to be a value of 50. And notice how here is nice and sharp, where if I go back to, let me change this color so we can see him just a little better. If I click max, notice he's fuzzy. If I click minimum, he's fuzzy too. But if I hit 50 degrees, or sorry, if I hit a value of 50 or halfway on this parameter, he's nice and sharp. So I can play with the zoom, tiny beam, max, widest beam, or scroll anywhere in between to get the size. I can also use the pan and tilt. So there's a couple of different ways I can use pan and tilt. I can grab the scroll wheels and manually pan and tilt him this way. So there's pan, and we click on tilt, and there's tilt. Or I have this sort of coordinates window where I can click and drag the parameters together. So along the x-axis here is his pan. Notice he's revolving from side to side along the x-axis, and the tilt is he's going to be revolving along his y-axis there. So if I want to go to sort of a diagonal sort of look, I can use that in combinations to where he spins around. If I want him pointing all the way up stage, I can go all the way up the Y and then slide a little bit over, right? Or if I want to highlight my lead singer here, I can put him, If I click home, he's going to go straight down, right? So he's always going to default at home to 0 pan and 0 tilt. So every option that was within this moving light is listed here in these parameters. Everything from strobing to effects, gobos, beam select. Here's animation and effect macros, which are chases, things that he will do on its own. The shutters, so I can go in and shutter this guy off, right? Just like we can with our conventionals. Open him back up to, let's see, let's scroll down. I want to be able to get the minimum here. Minimum, maximum, reset that back to home. Home. So this allows us to play with the 4 shutters that are inside the lighting instrument to get the shape that we want. Again, we have effect macros and animation. So this really makes it handy for focusing these for each cue in a very particular way using the moving light controls. I'm going to go back here to live table, and I'm going to grab all 4 in the front here. And it also makes it really easy for us to get a look out of all of them at the same time. So all the ones that are identical in their model will respond together. So let's turn them all up at max, right? I'm going to take their zoom all the way out to max and open them up. I'm going to give them all the same color, which is blue. And I'm going to focus them all in the same place. And remember, in augmented, I can click and hold in the 3D space, and they will all snap and follow my cursor around. So let's say I wanted on my lead singer. Let's say I wanted a really highly defined beam on my lead singer here. Let's say I want him on his face, and I want them all to be as red as possible. So that's my total red there. Let's say I want to zoom them out just a little bit. So I'm going to click on zoom, and I'm going to widen them up. Right, and then I'm going to click over here in my 3D space again and change the focus to where they're sort of covering my singer's whole body here. So this is a really powerful way that I can control a bunch of lights at once and also control a whole lot of the parameters all at the same time. I can choose all of my color source, my Solar Frame 750s, my moving lights, moving heads, and go back to moving light controls here. Let's send them all home in their pan and tilt. Let's turn them all on at max. Let's go to zoom and give them all a minimum beam. Let's turn them all the bluest possible I can get out of them, right? And I can have a lot of fun with moving them all around at once. Or I can click on my 3D space and call them all to the same point and focus them that way. Let me zoom out just a little bit here. And if I want to, I can go in and change the color of my beams. So remember, let me deselect all of this stuff, and let's go back up here to my color source pars. I want all the ones on top, going back to moving light controls, to be on at full, intensity max. And let's leave them white. I like that white look. I can go back to my live table, and let's select the bottom four, go back to moving light controls, and I want them all to be as green as possible. I got to turn them on, so let's turn them on intensity max. Let's say I want to go red. Let's go red. I like that look. So I've got a really dynamic, fun concert sort of look. So we have a lot of really great possibilities of changing the lights either manually within the live table, going into the patch and dealing directly with the manual functions of the light and changing them like you would a conventional by hand, or through ETC Nomad. Let's go back live, get out of the blind here and go back to live, or to use the moving light control function, which gives me control over every single parameter that's in that light. And we can have a lot of fun with lots of really cool, fun effects. All right, that's a little bit about moving light controls. Have a great time.